everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys and gals a little bit about the idea of good form and gaining muscle. And this is something you see people talk about a lot, and I'm going to give a little bit of clarity on this, explain kind of how it works in the real world, and then kind of explain what's been found by researchers over the years. Because people will argue about good form. They're like, well, we need good form to get the most muscle growth. Other people argue it's just about injuries. And here's what I'm going to break down as far as good form goes. Keeping in mind, good form is a relative thing. It's relative to your goals. It's relative to the person's structure. So on different exercises, good form is not always the same for every person and goal. So let's just get that out of the way. But generally speaking, what we think of as good form most of the time is to where you're not bending at weird angles, you're not cheating or swinging too much, right? You're keeping lifts fairly strict, right? What's the idea? We're keeping lifts fairly strict and through pretty good ranges of motion, right? We're trying not to do half reps. We're not trying not to use body English and swing, and we're trying to generally keep tension on muscles. Now, again, certain stuff can be different when we talk about deadlifting and optimal leverages for deadlifting and benching and stuff for maxes and competition. But those have their own kind of rules for good form. So I'm saying is just general, and I mean very loose guidelines, right? That's what we mean by good form, okay? In other words, not cheating weight up, using weights that are relatively light. So I mean, kind of like you're seeing with these curls. Can I curl heavier dumbbells? Yes. Can I do 14, 15 reps really strict like this? No, I'm using 28-pound dumbbells here, right? Because if I want the full range of motion without swinging my torso, because notice I'm only twisting a little bit to bring it up on the way up, right? If I want to get that and get a squeeze at the top, I can't do that with 40s. I'm going to have to swing them. I'm going to have to cheat them a little bit with 40s or 45s. And, so we could argue if that's worth it. So, and again, same thing with benching and bouncing the bar, lifting the butt off the bench. You guys will notice when I get to the bench coming up here, I pause every rep. Everything is stacked. Heels stay flat, butt stays on the bench, like when I'm doing the rep work at 315 later. So this is what we're talking about by good form. And form I don't even mean form as to be perfect on everything. We're just talking about good form. Okay? Right? So what's the point? Research generally doesn't show that it's necessary for muscle growth. In other words, loose form doesn't necessarily seem to interfere with muscle growth. It just doesn't. Now, is that to say that it can't? No, it can't. If it's loose enough, you're losing a lot of tension on a muscle, and the muscles you're trying to work are no longer really the muscles that fail on the exercise, then yeah, we could argue it will reduce muscle growth. But we see plenty of examples in bodybuilding, and I'm not talking even the modern guys on tons of drugs. If you look at various bodybuilding champions over the years, you see both groups. You see people who got crazy jacked doing lots of cheat reps and a lot of swinging and momentum, and we would think of as loose form. Okay? Now, your context being, do they probably have a really good mind-muscle connection? Yeah. These are usually people who have enough body awareness, though, who they kind of know if they're feeling the muscle or not. Okay, does that make sense? They may be using some swinging and some hip drive and things on their rows, or even their curls. But is the primary muscle failing? Are their lats the muscle that's failing, reaching muscle failure on the rows? Okay, then their lats are probably going to grow still. Are their biceps the muscle that is reaching failure on their curls, even if they're doing cheat curls? If it is, then their biceps are going to grow. And if they're a genetic freak on a lot of drugs, then their biceps and their lats are going to really, really, really grow because they're getting tension on them. And that's the end of the day. As long as the tension is on the muscles, you're getting a training stimulus. As long as the muscles that you want to grow are the ones that are the limiting factor in the lift, and you're getting real close to muscle failure, or that one muscle fails, right, and you have to cheat more to keep the weight moving, then you're gonna see good muscle growth, right? It's just the way it happens. Still about tension on the muscle. All right. So then people would say, why use good form? Well, for three reasons really. Number one, you may be cheating so much that you're losing tension. I've seen people cheat on curls so bad to where they're completely unloaded at the top because they're trying to get into a giant wrist curl at the top. It's all forearms and shoulders. And then they're not locking at the bottom, they're missing the bottom, and they're just doing a big hip extension. And I've seen guys so bad with that, it's like, yeah, they're probably not getting much bicep growth. In that case, it's not working. Because they're using form that's so bad with the ego lifting, they're really not even working the muscle they want anymore. And that's a problem. So in some cases, yes, it may be costing you muscle growth, number one. Now, in some cases, some guys can make a case for eccentric overload because a little bit of body English lets them have a heavier eccentric rep. That could be worth something. In some cases, that can produce its own unique solid growth stimulus. But in the lab, it's been found good form versus loose form doesn't seem to be a significant difference. As long as the target muscle is being worked, as long as that's the one that's really getting the brunt of the tension, you're going to see good growth. That's just how it is. So what else are we looking at? Injuries. That's a big one. Your injury risks are higher, right? People don't get hurt too often on bench the way I'm benching here. Notice perfect wrist stacking. Perfect wrist stacking at the bottom. I'm not bouncing, not bridging. It's all controlled, it's all paused. It's a little bit of an arch, not a lot, right? It's rare to get hurt doing this unless your drugs are really high. And I mean, I'm doing rep work at 315. I mean, I'm an older guy, so, and it's all strict. Could I probably bounce more weight? Sure. But I'm trying to bench here, guys. I'm trying to bench real strict. Trying to bench with my feet flat is the goal, right? As I get those heels stuck in at the bottom, stacking the wrist, bending the bar, lowering it under control, good control eccentric, pausing, driving it up. Okay? Low injury risk. Pretty high on the list, right? Forces me to use a little lighter weight, but it's still pretty dang good weight. I'm repping 315, I'll take it. I think plenty of people will be happy with that. So it's that, but then we also have to think of recovery. If we're cheating and swinging on everything and we're adding extra stress that we don't need to the body that is not causing growth, is it helping us? In other words, you have to think about if you're doing cheat rows with an extra 150 pounds. Like I can put another 150 pounds on the bar and strap up and cheat row more than my really strict rows, right? I'd probably do close to double the weight. How much extra compressive stress and axial loading and fatigue is that putting on my structure? A lot. Will that reduce the amount of training volume I can recover from? Yeah, a fair amount, especially at my age. 48, guys, it's recovery becomes really serious. It becomes harder. You have to think of those things of, if I'm just stricter and I don't beat myself up as much with cheating a heavier weight, can I do a couple more sets and recover from it? Can I get a couple more growth sets in? Okay, can I get some more quality work in? Yeah, absolutely. And if we can do that, is that potentially worth some growth if our goal is to maximize muscle growth, by getting a little more training volume in? I think the answer is yes. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.